ESPN layoffs begin with Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark is no longer with the For the Network. Clark's departure marks the beginning of a round of ESPN layoffs that are expected to take place this week. That was posted, what's that, yesterday? Yeah, that was posted yesterday. It is now a day later. As you all know, Ryan Clark was let go from the For the Network. And look, Ryan Clark was a instrumental piece into the reemergence of ESPN's NFL coverage. Let's go ahead and keep that all the way 100. When it comes to analysis, there was a point where ESPN's NFL coverage was deemed as fallen off, lackluster, as the rise of athlete-driven NFL podcasts escalated. The attention to detail in terms of the coverage from an NFL perspective for ESPN was deemed to be declining. Ryan Clark, along with Dan Orlovsky and even the Mina Kimeses of the world, kind of help re-elevate or bring it back to a level to where ESPN is now thought of again as they do solid NFL coverage. You may have your disagreements with some of the personalities or the way that they cover certain things, but for the betterment of the network, Ryan Clark came in and legitimized the coverage. And he legitimized the coverage by leaning heavily on the fact that he was a former player. He leaned on the fact that what he knew was superior to what your talking head non-athlete commentators were providing on the For the Network. So he brought in a breath of fresh air approach. Like what Nate Burleson has done with CBS is what Ryan Clark, in my opinion, brought to the For the Network in terms of he was able to elevate the content, elevate the acumen, elevate the conversations that were being had on air. And it also doesn't hurt that he had some personality to it. He understood the game of knowing how to go viral, have some hot takes every now and then, and he did not back down. There was no back down in Ryan Clark. Now, was the fact that Ryan Clark had no back down, is that part of the reason why he is no longer employed by the For the Network? Because as we go deeper into the story, 16 hours ago, ESPN has cut ties with NFL analyst Ryan Clark. That tweet was then updated because our story, Clark was live on NFL Live today. Clark was on NFL Live today, but was told during the program that he was being let go. He did not finish the program. ESPN was expected to inform him tomorrow morning, which is this morning, when it is anticipated the network to inform more employees of the layoffs. So the For the Network was going to keep this under wraps until today, Tuesday morning, to inform Ryan Clark and a whole bunch of others, with allegedly Carl Ravitch being one of those, that you no longer work here. But the story got out, or the names, or at least one name in being Ryan Clark, got out to other parts of the sports media landscape, and they were going to run with the story. So to combat that, to try to diffuse that, the For the Network decided, well, let's try to get ahead of it. Let's not have Ryan Clark. It's already bad enough that we're about to lay him off, but let's not have one of our competitors out the story before we can even inform Ryan Clark. So because Ryan Clark was live on the show while all of this was going on, I'm assuming they waited until a commercial break, and then they informed Ryan Clark, hey, by the way, tomorrow you're getting laid off. So this will be your last show on the network. Now, whether it was Ryan Clark solely or the powers that be and Ryan Clark decided to not finish the show. I firmly agree with Ryan Clark's stance of, if y'all letting me go, I'm not finishing this show. Let me go home now. So Ryan Clark does not finish the show. Very awkward, very abrupt, but it is what it is. If this is business and you're cutting me because of business, and we're assuming that this is all business, right? I have a thought. We'll get there. But Ryan Clark decides to leave the show. So Ryan Clark gets found out that he's going to be let go while on air. He decides to bounce. Now, who was the competitors who were going to out this story of Ryan Clark being laid off by ESPN while Ryan Clark was on the air? Well, it is none other than the right-wing conservative sports media entity of Outkick. Now, I am not a fan of this content. I am not a supporter of this content. We are only going to show this content on the screen here because it provides us the information to continue talking about the story. So Clay Travis, who is a dick, who is a a-hole, who is a blatant racist for pay, tweets out that ESPN firing Ryan Clark and leaking the news to Outkick writers to break is just chef's kiss perfect. So he's painting a narrative. He is trying to insinuate that the four-letter network leaked the story of Ryan Clark's firing to a competitor that has been open firing on Ryan Clark for years because he is a strident, proud black man that has strident, proud black man takes. Outkick don't like that. They want no parts of that. Their whole entity is derived off of the fact that they didn't like those types of voices being used in prominent spaces like ESPN. So now he's insinuating that they, as in ESPN, leaked the story to a right-wing conservative sports media outlet to leak the firing of Ryan Clark. That doesn't sit right with me. I don't know if I fully co-sign that, but let's just assume that there's a modicum of truth. Not that it's all the way true, but let's assume it's a modicum of truth. That's what it is today when it comes to media. You have to give a little bit of truth and just maybe get rid of the rest, right? Fake news and the whole deal. But there's more in terms of breaking this down. So we have someone who is a part of Outkick that goes deeper. Outkick told them as in ESPN, an hour before we had the news, and that they would give them time to comment/tell Ryan Clark. In that hour, they pulled Clark off the show, but ran and told another reporter to try to beat us as an Outkick. Who was that reporter? That reporter was Andrew Marchand, who is with The Athletic. So there's even beef within the beef. So the beef is allegedly between ESPN and Ryan Clark, right? Because they're letting him go. They're not retaining his services, even though I think he helped rebuild the NFL brand on their network. That's one beef. Then we have the beef of ESPN and Outkick. But there's someone at Outkick, Clay Travis, who used to be at ESPN, who is saying, no, ESPN was giving us the tea because they know we never fucked with Ryan Clark. But then we have someone else from Outkick going deeper saying, well, we told them an hour before that we had this tea and we were going to run with it. So either prepare a PR comment and or tell Ryan Clark that he's about to get let go. And then instead of doing either of those things, either preparing a statement and having it ready for when the eventual story does get leaked, all they did was tell Ryan Clark, or they, quote, pulled Ryan Clark off the show, and then to try to beat Outkick to having the tea first, they gave the tea to a competitor of Outkick in The Athletic and Andrew Marchand, so that Marchand would get the credit of breaking the story of Ryan Clark being let go. I know that's a lot, but this is sports media, and this is how all the webs get tangled, right? So you have the beef of ESPN and Ryan Clark. Then you have the beef of ESPN and Outkick. Then you have the beef of Outkick and The Athletic. It's all happening at the same time. So with all that being said, bottom line is Ryan Clark was let go, right? Now, the why of why Ryan Clark was let go. Steph, I see you in the chat. I'll get there in a sec. ESPN executives soured on Ryan Clark because of issues with his words. Now, remember, I said he had no back down. He was not afraid to press the issue. He was not afraid to say what was on his mind, and he was given the platform by ESPN to do so. Okay, so ESPN executives soured on Clark because of issues with his words, a dynamic that peaked with an off-air incident this past season involving colleague Peter Schrager. Who is Peter Schrager? Peter Schrager is the dude from NFL Network. He's a talking head. He is a commentator. He is not a former player. He is not a former athlete. I don't know if that man has ever played football a day in his life. But he has been elevated to be a voice in the NFL space. He is elevated as a commentator, analyst, even as a quasi-insider, and we'll get to that in a second, in the NFL space. So he carries a lot of clout. He was on NFL Network. Now NFL Network is under the umbrella of the four-letter network, ESPN. So now all of those dudes from NFL Network in terms of talent, not all, because some of them have been let go as well. Now, some of them are getting let go today as well. But the more popular commentators, pundits, insiders from NFL Network have made their way, and they're now employees of ESPN, Schrager chief among them. So where do we go in terms of the online spat? Now, they had an online spat because Schrager was defending CeeDee Lamb. It was a back and forth. I'm not going to play it because of copyright, but the back and forth was on Get Up last September, as you see here. Schrager defended Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb's performance in a season-opening loss. Clark said, "That's the non-player in you." Schrager asked Clark not to belittle him, and later that day, Clark apologized on the Elon app, writing, "Today I had an interaction with my colleague Schrager, both on and off the air, that I regret." So, Peter Schrager, NFL Network pundit, now ESPN NFL pundit. Here's the deal where, in the words of Avon Barksdale, Ryan Clark was caught playing them away games. Now, I just told y'all that I think, and I'll come off the screen for a little bit here. I just told y'all that I think Ryan Clark helped rebuild the NFL coverage on ESPN. He helped rebuild it, right? In doing so, they use him on all the shows. Get Up, First Take, NFL Live, Monday Night Countdown, all the shows. They were running them all over the place. He was popping up on all the ESPN podcasts. He was doing all the stuff. All the meanwhile, he's doing his own thing with the pivot, right? So he's doing all of this, all the things. In doing so, he was known for going at people. He would go at Stephen A. He would go at whoever. He had no back down. But you can't do that with every single person. Now, he might not have known Peter Schrager in terms of who he's connected to. He might not have known that Peter Schrager, even though to you and I, he's just a random talking head dude that pops up on TV a lot. Within the industry, it is known that Peter Schrager is held in high regard. Now, when you have a back and forth with someone that is held in high regard, there are potential consequences at play. Did Ryan Clark play a away game? In the words of Avon Barksdale, was Ryan Clark caught out there playing them away games? Because Ryan Clark barked up a tree, and that tree fell on him, and that tree's name is Peter Schrager. Let's go into deeper reasons as to why that could be the case. So, what's the proof that I have that Peter Schrager is held in high regard? Exhibit A, Your Honor. Peter Schrager is highly connected. If you recognize the faces on the screen, that's by design. If you recognize the face on the left and the face on the right, you should, because these names are held in high regard. These are luminaries within the industry. These are luminaries within the NFL ranks. And this is another indication of a troubling sign of how it's not about what you know or how you came about to know. It's all about who you know. And it's not just about who you know, it's even more so about who is going to protect you. Who do you know that is going to protect you? So if you have Ryan Clark, who is a strident, poignant, proud black NFL commentator, getting at one of your boys, and you could make a call, and your other boy can make a call, and then all of a sudden Ryan Clark has to run to the Elon app to apologize. And then just a few months later, because that was September, this is now July, so not even a year later, that guy is no longer employed by the company. Do you see what I see or nah? Is the math mathin' or nah? Hit the chat. Steph in the chat. McAfee about to see another bag come his way. Yeah, we will get there. We will definitely get there. That's the next piece. This thing is layered. And I know just the headline is Ryan Clark laid off. And while to a certain degree, that is the most, polarizing headline, right? But there's so many layers that make this thing up. The who, the what, the when, the why, and the how matter here. And that's why I'm trying to provide that to y'all. So when you have people that are connected, you can go very far, even as a non-athlete, even as a non-player. If you're connected, whether it's through your agent, whether it's through your management, whether it's through your father, whether it's through, what's her name? She does the Spurs a lot. Michelle Beadle. Michelle Beadle is highly connected, and she's thought highly in NBA circles and basketball circles overall because of her dad. Her dad was one of them, especially in the San Antonio area. Her dad was one of them. So she used his clout to get her own clout off, and she was given opportunities because of the strength of her dad. So her dad did the work, got the knowledge, got the acumen, built the reputation up, and then she was able to piggyback off of that and rise to her own heights in her own career, even surpassing her father. Now, if you want to connect the dots, Google is your friend, but Peter Schrager, if you start to enter in some names with who he's connected to, you can clearly see the mob ties of Peter Schrager, and you can clearly see why someone like Ryan Clark, if he has beef with Peter Schrager, even if it's just a temporary thing, people have long memories. If I'm Peter Schrager and I know I'm protected, there's a certain confidence I could walk around Bristol with, right? I could walk around and feel as though, yeah, I'm one of them, I'm good, I'm protected, I'm Teflon. If someone on air challenges me and tries to belittle me, which is the words he used, do not try to belittle me. Taking that term and leveraging it, that goes a long way because words carry a lot of meaning. Having those words, when people, especially on air, I can tell you as someone that's worked behind the scenes as a producer, director, technical director, all that stuff, the talent has these words that they're prepared to use. Like having that vocabulary. Vocabulary is in itself a weapon. If you know what to do, if you know how to use your words could be a weapon. Being able to have in real time, to be able to tell Ryan Clark, do not belittle me. That is threatening language. And not threatening in they put your hands up, we need to shoot the fade, but in the threatening of, I can tell the bosses that you're belittling me, that you're demeaning me. That's going to go far with the bosses up top. So if you already know you're connected, if you already know you're Teflon, and you have an on-air dispute and you feel as though, hey, I need to get this dude up out of here if he's going to be coming at me like this. Hey, Ryan, don't belittle me. Even though it just seems like a normal word to you and I, because I've been in this game for almost 20 joints, I know, oh, that is code. That is code to let him know and let the bosses know, hey, this ain't going to keep happening. You're not going to come at me just because I'm not a former player. And this is the dichotomy of where we have, this is the dichotomy of what the sports media landscape is today, where we have a bunch of former athletes flooding the space and a bunch of networks trying to fill out airtime and trying to fill out studio shows with a bunch of former athletes. The problem is that athletes don't know how to moderate. Athletes don't know how to host, by and large. Yeah, you can host a podcast, but that's just talking. It's conversational. But hosting a show is a different beast, a different set of skills that is required for the most part. You have your people that sneak through the cracks with no skills and still fail upwards. But hosting a show, moderating a show, being a non-athlete analyst in a show is extremely difficult depending on how you move. If Peter Schrager is held in high regard by the executives and you have a non-athlete like Peter Schrager that you're going to elevate, you can have a former athlete calling your future prize up or your future star out by saying, hey, that's the non-player in you, as in your opinion is less noteworthy, less valued because you didn't play. And that's going to continue to be the tug of war on all these shows. Because until athletes get good enough to where they can host and moderate, in addition to provide the former athlete perspective, there's going to have to be someone who is not an athlete sitting at that desk or sitting on these podcasts, these live streams, these shows that have to be the traffic cop. Someone's got to be Ernie Johnson, right? As good as Shaq is, Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley is, they need a Ernie Johnson to steer the ship. Let those guys do what they do. Let those guys be the big personalities. Let them have their jokes. Let them go off the rails a little bit. But at some point, someone's got to rein them in. And that type of person normally looks like Peter Schrager. So if there's a path for Peter Schrager to be elevated to a higher space, you can't have Ryan Clark, who has already been strident, who has already been, very prideful in his takes and has had, viral moments going back and forth for people already. You can't have this guy demeaning or, in his own words, belittling what the Ford of the network deems as part of their future. So if that guy just also so happens to be connected, who is more expendable? Who is more expendable when it comes to Ryan Clark, former player, who's got his own thing with the pivot? He can easily just ride that out and continue to monetize that. Or there's other networks that I think Ryan Clark's phone is blowing up for a multitude of reasons today, but I'm sure part of that is that other networks, whether it's your Amazons, your Netflixes, they're all trying to get at Ryan Clark to pull up because Ryan Clark is damn good at what he does. Ryan Clark, if he wants to be hired, could be hired today. I'm sure there is something now, here's another interesting piece, and I'll come up the screen here for a little bit, and I see the chat. We're going to get to the chat right after this. If there is a scenario where Ryan Clark is laid off, normally in a layoff, there's a negotiation of sorts within the layoff. There's severance, right? Part of that severance is usually a non-disclosure agreement, a NDA. Also, at times, part of that could be a non-compete clause, which bars you from working with a competitor for a set amount of time. If this is the case with Ryan Clark being laid off now, one, does he have to sign an NDA? Which would hinder him from going on even his own platform in the pivot in talking about what just happened to him. There could even be a non-compete clause where if Ryan Clark is offered opportunity, let's say Netflix spins the block and says, hey, yo, now that you're unemployed, we would love to have you for our NFL games this year. Christmas, Black Friday, all that stuff. We want you in the mix. If Ryan Clark has to sign a NDA and a non-compete, that can't happen. So this gets layered because what if the four-letter network not only has Ryan Clark sign an NDA, which would ban him from being allowed to speak on being laid off from the four-letter network or the circumstances which he thinks led to him being let off at the four-letter network on his own platform, but he could also be subject to a non-compete clause to where he can't even go to an Amazon, to a Netflix, to an NBC, to a CBS, and just start working again. That would be extremely dirty. So not only do you lay me off while I'm working for you, and then you put clips up of the last show I did with you to help continue to push your algorithm and your views and your metrics and your monetization. But then you're going to make me sign something that says not only can I not talk about what just happened to me on my own platform, but I can't even go get another job for a certain amount of time. It's a dirty game. It's a dirty, nasty game. Now, if you're Ryan Clark, here's the advantage of being a former athlete. You can have the bread, assuming he's been good with his money, and he was an undrafted free agent, made his bread in the league, and rags to riches type story for Ryan Clark, but he's made his money. Pivot's monetized. He's had ESPN money the last few years. He should be okay. Can't speak on nobody's pockets, but in theory, he should be okay. Do you say no to the severance package? Because the severance package has an NDA and a non-compete clause in it. I know I'm talking real deep contract shit, but this is the game that we're in. This is the industry. I'm trying to give you the perspective of that. If you're Ryan Clark, do you turn down whatever the severance package is? And it might be a nice one because he's talent, right? He was allegedly making upwards of over $2 million a year. That severance package might be 7 figures. Are you turning down a 7-figure severance package because it has language like an NDA, because it has language like a non-compete? Now, if he's been good with his bread, that 7 figures shouldn't really matter because he can really get most of that money back, maybe not millions. I don't know how much the Pivot doing over there, but I don't know if he's getting millions, but just the views alone, if he turns down the severance package, turns down the NBA, turns down the non-compete, and if he goes on the Pivot and airs it out, that's going to do numbers everywhere, every platform. And then he could go get hired by another company and then run those numbers up. I don't know. Y'all let me know. Would you turn down the severance package, a potential 7-figure severance package, so you can speak freely on your own platform, which is already monetized, and then go get a job at a competitor? Do you take that bag and go chill? Because let's just say the severance, let's say the NDA might be longer than a year. The non-compete might just be for a year, but the NDA might be longer than a year. Would you be willing to sit at home at the crib, take a 7-figure payout, chill at the crib for a year, but you still can't talk about what happened to you, or not sign anything and I'm airing everything out? You let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat. All right. To the most casual, Ryan is easily one of the most recognizable media members. Like everyone else, this is a message to keep a certain, I'm assuming there's a part 2, yep. Could keep a certain demographic in line. No, very, very accurate. Being a strident black, proud black man and it's obviously goes for women as well. But being a former athlete in this space is a very delicate dance you have to do. Because you could be loud, boisterous, like a Cam Newton, wear the hats and have the clothes, and it's okay. He's safe. Cam Newton is safe because if a black topic were to come up, if a controversial take or opinion comes up, he's more than likely not going to go there in terms of stoking the fires, right? That's not his bag. But Ryan Clark, we know what type of time he on. Okay, we know what type of time he on. He is the antithesis of Jason Whitlock. He is the reverse Jason Whitlock. He is opposite Jason Whitlock. He is bizarro Jason Whitlock, right? Ryan Clark's going to talk his talk and has done it on air and is deemed as controversial. So yes, there is a certain way that black anchors, commentators, pundits, period, have to toe the line. That's why the more popular black pundits are your Stephen A's. Because when he tries to get black, it's not really black, but it's black enough. It's black enough, right? But we know how he really gets down because he goes on his own show and he's talking about right wing, I'm going to run for president. He's down with Trump. Then he wants to beef with Trump. Then he doesn't. Like, we know what he really is. He has made enough money to where he has crossed to a certain threshold and he now is free to let his real thoughts out. He doesn't feel like he has to carry the culture on his back. Not that he ever did, but he doesn't have to feel the oppressive pressure of, I'm carrying the culture on my back. I've made enough money and I'm up so much that I don't have that need anymore. I could jettison that backpack of carrying the culture and I could just be me. And who I am is a conservative black dude that likes his money and likes access to power. In the chat, Ryan Clark was fired for implying Peter Schrager, the non-player in America's greatest ally club, like the juice. That's a good comparison. I mean, when you see what's here, when you look at guys like Chris Sims, right? Chris Sims was I won't even say mediocre football player. He was a bad NFL quarterback. Now, he can go on live streams. He could go on podcasts. He could go on networks and look the part, talk the part, but he couldn't put any of it into reality, right? Like, I think I did the breakdown. I was going to do a video on it, but I didn't. Still may. But the premise is that who is the worst athlete, the worst pro athlete that has turned himself into having a high-level media career? Because Dan Orlovsky, as good as he is as a commentator, is as bad as he was as a NFL quarterback. Obviously, infamously or famously, however you want to look at it, ran out the back of the end zone because he had no awareness, right? He was a horrible NFL quarterback, but he is a phenomenal NFL analyst. Chris Sims was an even worse NFL quarterback, and I don't hold himself in that high regard in terms of his acumen as a commentator or an analyst. But Chris Sims not only has the right last name because his dad was an actual good NFL quarterback and was a good to solid, probably more so solid, NFL commentator on TV for a very long time, but he had the right last name. So just like Michelle Beadle leveraged her dad's career to be able to get her own career popping off, Chris Sims did the same thing. Chris Sims was supposed to be one of those can't-miss prospects when he went to Texas, and he was mid. Then he got to the league, and he was even worse. Then he got into the media, and all of a sudden, people are valuing his opinion when they have no basis as to why they're trusting his opinion. Just because his last name is Sims? Yes, because his last name is Sims. But he also has Kyle Shanahan as a plug. Kyle Shanahan and Chris Sims share tattoos. You heard me correctly. They have matching tattoos. So Chris Sims not only has the nepotism of his father was a, high-level quarterback, won a Super Bowl, and turned into the media space and was highly regarded in the media space, but he was able to piggyback off of that. And then, not only that, you compound it even more by, oh, by the way, Kyle Shanahan is my man. And my man to the point that we have matching tattoos. So yes, Peter Schrager is connected. Whether it's NFL coaches or executives at the NFL Network, or whether now some of those NFL executives are now folded into the ESPN landscape because of the buyout deal. People high up think highly of Peter Schrager. And when Ryan Clark goes at Peter Schrager to the point that Peter Schrager says, hey, do not belittle me, it is no surprise to me that in under a year, Ryan Clark is no longer with the four-letter network. Now that's that layer of it, right? Then we got to get into the McAfee angle, right? Oh, and then by the way, Carl Ravitch, we had that piece here, right, where I mentioned that earlier. Carl Ravitch, one of the most prominent voices at ESPN for more than 3 decades, is expected to be let go by the network, okay? But this is what Steph was talking about earlier. ESPN and Pat McAfee are negotiating a new deal that could pay him more than $60 million annually. The proposed extension may be tied to additional responsibilities across the network's NFL coverage. So, with the deal that has the NFL Network folding into ESPN, which has the NFL having a 10% ownership stake in ESPN, with ESPN having their first Super Bowl coming up this year, they are going balls to the wall with NFL coverage. They are enhancing their NFL coverage. Now, you would assume Ryan Clark would have been a prominent piece of that content. Now we know he will not. So who will be? Well, you're going to have your Peter Schragers of the world for sure. But now McAfee, with an alleged new deal that's going to pay him more than $60 million a year, they are putting everything that they can behind this McAfee machine. The McAfee machine is running the four-letter network. Now imagine you are Fraud A. Smith. You are Fraud A. Smith, and you have put in all types of years of work. You have seen the ups and downs. ESPN at one point fired that man only to run back and give him another chance, and he has never looked back. But that man has, I used to call him infamously or famously on my podcast, the DCMD podcast, by the way, available on all major podcasting platforms. I call that man overworked and underpaid, because that is what the four-letter network was infamous within the industry for doing to people. And after working there myself, I can tell you it is accurate, right? Most folks there are overworked and underpaid. Fraud A. Smith now is getting upwards of $20 million a year. Now, he got his own platform, and he's able to monetize outside of ESPN, and he's got brand deals and stuff like that. And then, who knows? I'm sure MAGA might be sliding him a check or 2 or 3, allegedly, but he's getting his bread elsewhere. But the ESPN piece of it is upwards somewhere between 20 and 30. Well, let's give some grace and say it's closer to 30, but reportedly, it was more in the 20 to 25 range. To have McAfee come in after you, to have McAfee, who was already monetizing his YouTube piece, and to bring a partnership deal, leverage that piece, and then bring that to the four-letter network, and then have the relationship with the high-level executives at the four-letter network, and now to be able to walk away with potentially, if not triple, at least double what Fraud A. Smith makes, that's extremely troubling if you are Fraud A. Smith. But you've made your bed and you've signed whatever you've signed. Now, you could always try to renegotiate and all that stuff, but it is what it is. You're never going to, Stephen A. Smith will never make more money than Pat McAfee. And the second he makes more money than Pat McAfee is going to go into renegotiations to make sure he makes more than Stephen A. Smith. Because at all these sports media companies, they have all learned football is king. As if they didn't know already, it's been compounded over the last couple of years, especially as the streamers, your Netflixes, your Amazons, are jumping into the space. And even streaming companies through gambling like FanDuel, like DraftKings. Football is king. It makes all the sense in the world to double, triple, quadruple, quintuple down on football content. If you're trying to get into the content creating space, if you're trying to get into the sports content creating space, start with football. If you are the Florida Network, you're about to have your first Super Bowl. You just got the NFL Network. You have absorbed the high-level content, the high-level talent from NFL Network. You're now going to integrate them into your NFL content. And oh, by the way, now the NFL owns 10% of you. You are now financially incentivized even more so. You are now more fiscally responsible to put out more and more and more NFL content. When the NFL owns a piece of you, you don't think that comes with any, whether it's said indirectly or directly, you know you're going to triple down, quadruple, quintuple down on football, right? We're not buying a piece of you for you to go run the numbers up on your NBA coverage. We're not buying 10% of you to go crazy talking about the World Cup. We're not buying a piece of you to go crazy talking about pickleball and the Ocho and all that. We're buying 10% of you to make sure you know that NFL is king. There's so much with this story. So much with this story, and I'm sure as the day goes along, there's going to be even more. There's going to be even more. I'm going to check to see if there's any other names that have been let go. Yep, we have some more names. All right, let's see. Hang on. Let me go to the screen. Oh, it's going to be one of those streams today. All right, who else we got? One of the top NFL Network insiders, Tom Pelissero, is expected to be let go as part of the ESPN layoffs. So now this is the other piece of it. So you're bringing in NFL Network people into ESPN. ESPN already has their NFL people, right? They already have the Adam Schefters of the world. They already have, they had Ryan Clark, but they have their people that they lean on, right? Now you have double of everything. This is business, right? NFL Network has their own insiders, Ian Rappaport being one of them, but ESPN signed Ian Rappaport, so they're keeping him. But that means we can't keep all of them, so Tom Pelissero, you got to go. So NFL Network, all the people that were brought over, they were ESPN employees for a little bit, but until ESPN figures out who they're going to keep and who they're going to let go, they all just had double of everything. Now they have made their choices and they have cutting the fat. They are trimming the excess. It sounds cutthroat, but that's what it is. So now we can't have too many NFL insiders. Some of y'all got to go. Tom Pelissero is a victim of that today. Longtime SportsCenter anchor David Lloyd and injury expert fantasy analyst Stefana Bell are expected to be laid off by the Florida Network today. So now it gets even deeper. Now it's not even just NFL Network people. It is now longtime SportsCenter anchor David Lloyd and people even on the fantasy side. Again, the NFL Network has their own fantasy stuff, right? So just like the ESPN bet thing kind of came and went, And ESPN is now just leveraging, what is it, DraftKings? I think it's DraftKings. They're leveraging what they're going to do with DraftKings. They tried their own thing. They tried to have their own app. They tried to be their own sports book. It didn't work. All right, we'll just leverage a partnership with an existing brand and just piggyback off of that. Same thing with this NFL Network thing. Okay, do we need another Sports Center anchor where we're going to be ball-to-the-wall football when we just absorbed NFL Network and all their content? Are we going to be doing a lot of sports centers like that anymore when we have NFL Network's library where we could just run, a football life into the ground like NFL Network was? Instead of another sports center, you might get the Ricky Williams football life at 2, 3 in the morning. Instead of them doing a fresh live sports center, no, we're just going to run a block of a football life. Cheap. We don't got to pay no cameramen. We don't got to pay no talent. We don't got to pay no producers, no directors, no PAs, no media people. We don't got to pay any of them. We're just going to re-rack the Ed Reed football life and just run that. This is where we're at in the industry. Who else we got? Longtime NFL Network analyst Charles Davis is expected to be let go. Again, NFL Network analyst. Do we need another football analyst? When we have Mina Kimes, when we have Booger McFarland, when we have Marcus Spears, when we have all these people, do we need a Charles Davis? The For the Network has decided, no, we do not need a Charles Davis. This is the game, bro. This is the game. Front Office Sports is jumping into this landscape. They're being in the mix. They got a lot of media stuff. Let's see what else they might have. These are the same names we know already. Is there anything else? I don't see anybody else right now. Nope. Okay. All right. So that's that piece of it, right? The industry is trending in a direction where big bank take little bank. NFL Network was it was a losing entity in terms of money for the NFL. They decided to sell that off, leverage that to a partnership with a existing media company. That existing media company turned out to be ESPN. And oh, by the way, can we own a piece of y'all too? Can I own a piece of y'all too? And now they got 10%. Steph in the chat. To be fair, Mina Kimes is one of the best to do it. Real ball knower. No, that's the thing, right? So if you have a Mina Kimes, if you have a Booger McFarland, if you have a Dominique Foxworth, now if they were to lay off Dominique Foxworth, that would be extremely telling in terms of black voices, proud, strident. I mean, they already got Bomani up out of there. Now they got Ryan Clark up out of there. They been got Jamel Hill and Michael Smith up out of there. If they were to get Dominique Foxworth up out of there, that would be extremely telling to me in terms of the lean or the slant that the company has decided to take. But yes, Mina Kimes is one of them. Being able to listen to her podcast and just watch her break shit down. And it's not just surface stuff. It's not just looking at a box score. It's not just, I'm going to look at this website and siphon that information and then remix it like it's no, she is actually, you can tell she watches tape. You can tell she is leveraging her relationships and talking to coaches and talking to scouts and talking to coordinators. You can tell. Like when she has tea, it is legitimately sourced. Not only because she's inside like that, but also she comes from a journalism background. She used to be a business reporter, right? So she is used to vetting stories and doing long-form interviews and profiles. So she is already a high-level journalist that pivoted from doing business stories to sports, to football specifically. Like where now she's done color commentating. Like she has gone from, you were a business reporter to now you're calling games and you don't sound like you're trash at calling it. Like, what the hell you're talking. Like the pivot, that's another pivot. That pivot was really, really amazing to watch in real time. So if you got Amina Kimes, yeah, maybe I don't need Charles Davis. If I got Amina Kimes, maybe I don't need Tom Pelissaro. I mean, if I got Amina Kimes, do I need Pat McAfee? No. I know how y'all get. I know how y'all get. I know y'all love y'all some McAfee. I mean, he doesn't fit my demo. McAfee's not in my demo. He's not on my algorithm. He's not on my feed. And he's not on my timeline. But apparently there's enough that he's worth $60+ million to the four-letter network. Allegedly. All right, what else we got? So that's that piece. We can continue talking about that, and I'll keep checking the feed, refreshing the timeline as more and more information drops. But a lot of people are going to be let go today within the sports media landscape, specifically from ESPN. A lot of people are going to be let go today. You're going to hear some names, and you'll be like, wow, that person's out of a job? Yeah. Yeah, they are. It's a dirty game. So while we have that information streaming down about who's next to go, who's going to go, why did they go, the LeBron watch continues. So Rich Paul is still talking. Rich Paul is still putting out pods. Rich Paul is still doing all the things. And he keeps talking about LeBron while LeBron is holding not only us in the content space at hostage, he's also making the NBA schedule makers and holding them at hostage as well, because the league can't announce a full schedule until they know how many LeBron games they're going to get. But Rich Paul, quoted about LeBron's timeline, said, we're not making this about attention and a spectacle. Let's go ahead and laugh at your man's Rich Paul. Let's go ahead and laugh at Rich Paul, because this is a lie. This is an absolute lie. This is a lie. Like, why lie? Like, we're at the point where, again, narratives is a thing. Media narratives and controlling the media narrative is a thing. And both these guys have learned from people who don't look like them of how to operate and control media narratives. So they're just running the same playbook. However, how dumb do they think we are? How dumb do LeBron James or Rich Paul think we are that he can say this? We're not making this about attention and a spectacle. He is literally the last important free agent decision left on the board. He is the last piece on the board. And there's so many players that are going to take the vet minimum just waiting to find out where LeBron is going. Because for salary cap reasons, for fit reasons, no one can make a move until LeBron makes a move, because if he goes to Miami, Miami's going to have to figure out and fill out the rest of that roster. If he goes to a Minnesota, now Miami has a lot more bread to throw around to go get some other vets. If he goes to Philly, same thing. They got to fill out that roster. They may have to make some additional moves. If he goes to Cleveland, same thing. Like, so whatever team he goes to, that team and then the domino effect of other teams are going to have to make moves once he decides where he's going to go. So to say that this is not about attention and a spectacle, when you have people in the media space that are saying LeBron already knows where he's going, why he's taking so long is up to his own accord. Only he, and maybe Rich Paul, knows. It's not about a decision or anything like that. He has a choice to make. He has a business choice to make. And we talked about that here on the stream where we broke down the whiteboard, and the whiteboard had the Dallas Mavericks on it. And the only reason why the Dallas Mavericks were on the whiteboard was because of oil money. It was all off the court reasons. They had the Boston Celtics on that whiteboard. And I talked about how even though Rich Paul put Brad Stevens, the boy genius, and Jason Tatum on that board, I was like, no, that has nothing to do with Brad Stevens or Jason Tatum. It has everything to do with the Boston Celtics are owned by a private equity fund. So he wants access to that private equity fund. But what's the business if he just plays at the crib again? If he closes out his career in Cleveland, is he trying to make the Michael Jordan Wizards move again? Is he trying to right the wrong that was what happened to Michael Jordan with the Wizards? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you are a student of the game in business, you should know that the Michael Jordan Wizards move is not the move. You don't play for a team with a under-the-table handshake agreement that you're going to own the team after you're done. You don't do that. And the NBA forbids that there's contract language that states that a player can be a player/owner. So it's not like it could be written into your contract. So what is the business angle for LeBron going back to Cleveland? Dan Gilbert going to get after everything that we've seen over the years with Dan Gilbert and LeBron. And yes, they mended fences to get LeBron back there for the second run. But you're now telling me the third and potentially likely final run is going to be LeBron's going to own the Cavs at the end of it? How, Sway? What is the business choice to make? Is it the business of bread and ownership, or is the business of legacy? Is legacy a business? He's got 4 championships. Is he trying to get to 5? Where does 5 put him? It puts him in the pantheon of Tim Duncan. It puts him in the pantheon of Magic Johnson. It puts him in the pantheon of Kobe. It still ain't Jordan, but it's one closer to Jordan. Is that the business choice? The business of legacy. If he goes to Philly, it's a 2-year window. Do you see a scenario where LeBron goes to Philly and gets back-to-back chips to finally catch Mike? Is that the business choice? What is the business choice that LeBron and Rich Paul are speaking on? If LeBron goes back to Miami and wins one more, that doesn't seem like business. Again, now, if you want to play the business ownership piece, this is a long shot, but walk with me. The Miami Heat are owned by a very old man. That old man has a son. The son is alleged to be the heir to take over once the father eventually dies. Is there a scenario where LeBron is trying to maybe not outright own, be the majority owner, but is he like, yo, I'll come back to Miami, but when the old man eventually dies and the son takes over, you bring me in as a minority owner? But again, that language can't be in the contract, so now we've got another handshake agreement, and we saw what happened with Michael Jordan and the Wizards when that happened. What's the business choice? You let me know. We'll hit the chat. You're on point. Pat prioritize entertainment over analysis. Real ball knowers add insight and let the moment breathe. No, that's real. And I think the sports media landscape has turned into that, where it's less about what you know. It's less about acumen. It's less about any of that stuff. It's all about, can you drive engagement? Are you polarizing? Are you a contrarian? You know, when I started my career, I'm kind of known as a contrarian, but it's because I'm an actual contrarian. Like when everyone's saying we should go left, I'm like, well, what's wrong with right? That's how I'm wired. That's how my brain works. Ask anyone who has known me for any significant amount of time. They can tell you that I think differently, but it's by design, not because I'm trying to stand out from the crowd. Unfortunately, the contrarian angle has been bastardized. It's been plagiarized to where now we have fake contrarians. To where if everyone's saying Lamar Jackson's really good, you know how I'm going to stand out? By saying Lamar Jackson stinks. Because that take is going to be so outrageous and so against the grain that it's going to get me clicks, views, engagement, and the like. That's where the industry is right now. To where it's not about do you know ball. I'm trying to build a community here of just ball knowers. Yeah, we can have our fun and entertainment and shit like that too, but at the core is, do you know ball though? Because once you know ball, I bet then we can talk our shit and have some fun. But let's be clear, this is a platform for people that know ball. If you go down to people that I brought on as guests, Stefan being one of them that you see here in the chat, I bring on people that I know ball. Now, you can still have fun and be entertaining with people that know ball, but the baseline always begins and ends with me, do you know ball? And once you pass that litmus test, then I'm like, all right, cool. Now we can shoot the shit, have fun, talk about whatever else, but hey, when it's time to talk ball, can you keep up? Because I know ball. So I've had to weed out a bunch of people in my content journey that I thought knew ball that didn't know ball. So if you're here right now, the algorithm is assuming you know ball. And if you subscribe to this channel, that means you know ball and you're trying to tap in with more people that know ball. Stephanie chat, does this prove that Bron is still the face of the league at 42? Yes. Although, to be real, did we need this though for that? Like, yes, right? Answer's yes. However, I think we already knew that. Like, LeBron's going to be the face until he walks away. That's why the NBA Finals, if Big Vic would have, if Mitch Johnson would have been a real coach, if De'Aaron Fox would have been a real point guard, if Big Vic would have played like Big Vic the entirety of the series, the baton would have been passed. But because those ifs didn't now we got LeBron at 42 still being the most polarizing, engaging lightning rod for the league at the age of 42. This man had a full white beard playing golf, and he has the whole league on standby until he decides where he's going to play next year. That's real power. Absolutely real power. Chris in the chat, they're going to monetize Bron, especially if it is his last season, so he's sort of the face. But, I mean, yeah, no, he's definitely still the face. Like, it's amazing that at the age of 42, he's still the face, but it's not surprising, right? Like, who else could it be? They tried to make it Victor Wembanyama. He wasn't ready. They have tried it with SGA. It's not going to happen with SGA. Low-key, it could be Ant, and that's why I think Ant and Bron teaming up would be more of it could be a real passing of the torch. If Bron goes to Minnesota, which I'm on the record saying I think that's the easiest lineup for him to fit into. If he were to go to Minnesota, he can kind of, not that Ant Edwards needs a mentor, but the fact that Rich Paul is his agent, which also kind of means LeBron is your agent, allegedly. But the fact that you could have LeBron and Ant teaming together, playing the whole year together, that could kind of be a passing of the torch of sorts, especially if they walk off with a Larry or B. Because Ant has the personality. You need someone with some personality. The face of your league can't be boring. Baseball has learned that with Mike Trout. Mike Trout, it was at one point in time the best player in the world, but he was boring as shit, and the league couldn't monetize off of that. You can't have the face of your league being boring. LeBron, as much as his public persona is manicured, as much as he has been protected, as much as he has a clean reputation, but if you know, allegedly not so clean, but he's got enough things working with him and the machine needs him, so they're going to let a lot of things go by the wayside. LeBron is a entertaining personality, entertaining enough personality, right? Ja Morant was thought, nope, he's fighting kids in his backyard, can't have that. Zion was thought, nope, he's too caught up in BBW porn stars. All right, well, that can't work. The league has been struggling to find a face. Who's going to take the baton from LeBron? Who? If it ain't going to be Big Vic, Who? If it ain't Ant-Man, who? It can't be Ja. It won't be Zion. Who? It ain't gonna be Cooper Flag. I don't think any of the youngins that just got drafted. I don't think it's any of them. Who is the future face of the NBA? This is that period similar to post Jordan and before LeBron, where you had a bunch of dudes. Yeah, Kobe was. Some people will say Kobe. I think that's a little revisionist. But there was a period where it was Jordan. It was briefly Iverson, even though the league wanted it to be Grant Hill. It was briefly Iverson. And then once it was not Iverson, you kind of had a bunch of dudes vying for it. Tim Duncan, but Tim Duncan, as great as he is, he was hella boring. They would have loved it for it to have been Yao Ming, but the feet couldn't hold up. Then when it was looking like it was going to be Kobe for an extended period of time, then Colorado happened. Then we got the LeBron thing rolling, and it's been LeBron ever since. So we're kind of entering that where it's like, all right, well, after LeBron, who we might be in the malaise for a little bit because we don't know who it's going to be. We don't, there's no one standing up saying, I want to be the face. I think Ant has the personality, but we know how Ant get down off the court, even though he's not doing anything wrong, but public perception-wise, it kind of doesn't fit. That's why the Iverson as the face only lasted a few years because of how he was moving off the court, even though, again, he was doing nothing wrong, but perception-wise, it didn't fit. Same with Ant. Now, if LeBron and Ant team up, he might get some of that public persona cleansing that he might need to be the future face of the league, but I don't know if Brown wants to hoop in Minnesota. Scrub Zero in the house. What's good, brother? What will be a bigger story? LeBron winning another ring or Jaylen Brown doing it apart from the Celtics? From the NBA's perspective, LeBron doing anything is the bigger story, right? But for us, people that know ball, for the culture, Jaylen Brown. But for ball, it depends on where LeBron wins that ring, right? To me, it depends where. Let me pull this one up too. Ant Edwards ain't moving like he was. He wants to be the face of the league for real. No, he's too busy being outside. He's too busy being outside. But let me go back to this one. Bring that back up. Okay. LeBron winning another ring, it depends on where. He wins another ring in Cleveland, it's a good Hallmark movie. It's that, right? Him winning a ring in Philly, it hits, but it don't hit like Cleveland because there's no history there, right? The only history is Embiid in the process finally reached the pulpit, right? They finally is the culmination of the process, right? LeBron in Miami, again, it's a storybook thing, but I don't think that story is that dope. Like, that story to me is not that dope. That's all the pushback LeBron got in 2011 for doing the super team thing, even though it wasn't really about that. It would be more of that at 42 years old, teaming up with the Nigerian freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Bam Adebayo, Idris Adebayo. Like, it would be more of, I'm joining a super team just to join a super team if he goes back to Miami a second time. I don't view that as a bigger story. Like, LeBron is the face of the league, so him winning another championship and getting the 5, tying Duncan, tying Kobe, tying Magic, that's a thing, but 5 ain't 6. Like, if he goes to Philly and wins 2, if he goes to Cleveland and wins 2, goes to Miami and wins 2, that becomes bigger. But if Jaylen Brown goes to Philly, in one of the blackest cities in the world, has a team that is ready to win right now, potentially walks through the Celtics on the way to a championship, wins that Larry O.B., but again, it wouldn't be about him, right? It's a really good question. It's a tough one. It's a tough one because Jaylen Brown winning in a black city on a black team with black energy, that would be a thing. But LeBron winning a 5th ring, hard stop, it's a bigger story. But for us who know ball and us that are about the culture, it would be right there. It still would be slightly below LeBron getting a 5th, but it's not a big gap. It's not that. It's more like a 1A type of deal. Good question, though. Thank you for that. That was good. Scrub Z in the chat. Also, this is on Adam Silver in the league for holding on to LeBron too long. Well, I mean, no, I'll push back on that because I think they tried to hand the baton. It's just Deuce tricked it off. They tried to give it to Zion. They tried to give it to Zion. He wasn't ready for it. He was undisciplined in terms of his diet and his women choices. Like, he was undisciplined. He wasn't. Could you imagine if they actually did give it to him and still did what he did? You know how bad the league would be in if Zion was actually the face of the league? And he goes from busting through sneakers to busting through BBW. I'm just saying. It would be a bad look for the league. It was even a bad look for the league even when he wasn't the face of the league and he still did what he did. So could you imagine if the keys were actually given to him? They tried to give it to Ja. They tried to give it to Ja. When it looked like the Warriors were declining and the Grizz were on the way up, they tried to give it to Ja. And then he couldn't handle losing to a kid in his own backyard, and then everything went to hell ever since. He couldn't stop showing guns on IG Live. He couldn't not feel a way losing in his own backyard. All the things went wrong. They tried. And the sneakers are still flying off the shelves. The Ja 3s are still out here killing. But that ain't enough to be the face of the league. They want it to be Wemby. They are dying for it to be Wemby. That's why I thought they would have gone to greater lengths to fix the NBA Finals, to let it be Big Vic, so that LeBron could walk off. Not that he would have retired, but like, all right, it's not that important anymore. We got Big Vic. He's ready. But it hasn't been anybody. Giannis had that 1 year with the championship. He won back-to-back MVPs. It ain't even Giannis. It ain't even the Nigerian freak. Like, it's LeBron until he walks away. So Adam Silver and the NBA has tried, but the dudes that they have given it to have all tricked it off in their own way. Kobe would have been the face if not for that case in Colorado. Yeah, I mean, he was the face, but then Colorado happened, and then it took him a minute to rebound from that. And it took a lot. Like, a lot of people still carry energy for Kobe, even though his passing allowed a lot of revisionist history in how people felt about Kobe. The manner of which he passed, the fact that Gigi passed with him, just the nature of it all led a lot of people to rewrite how people felt about Kobe while he was still alive. There were a lot of people that still felt the way about Kobe, about that Colorado shit. So he even though he rebounded his image, he got his Nike deal back, and he became Kobe again, and we all loved him again. There were a lot of people that stayed away and was like, no, fuck that dude. Then he died, and it was, oh, we all loved Kobe. Like, no, I remember. Y'all had some energy, but, you know, people get to write their own history. The people that are still breathing get to write their own history. Steph in the chat. The only other potential face there has been in 2012 was Steph. Yeah, see, here's the weird thing with Steph, right? Was Steph ever the face? He was certainly a baby face, like if we're doing wrestling terms. He was a baby face, but I don't know if he was the face. Because to say he was the face means that he trumped LeBron. I don't know if Wardell ever trumped LeBron. He certainly had a meteoric rise and a historic impact, and I still stand firm. Steph Curry ruined basketball. So he has that impact, right? But I don't know if he ever overtook LeBron as the face. He was certainly at one point in time the lead baby face. And babyface, if you're not familiar with that as a wrestling term, babyface means you're the number one good guy. Like you have your heel and you have your babyface. So you have your top heel, your top bad guy, your top good guy. If you want to tell me when the Warriors and the Cavs kept playing in the finals, Steph was the top babyface and LeBron was the top heel, I could listen to that with not a lot of pushback. But I don't think there was ever a scenario where Wardell was over LeBron. I could be wrong. Y'all let me know. Script Zero, we know Zion couldn't be the face. Yeah, I mean, that dude, man. You talk about giving all the opportunity in the world. LeBron gave you cosigns. The league put you in a position to where you were the man right away. Like all the conspiracy theories that the Knicks is supposed to get Zion and all that stuff. Zion wanted to be a Knick. Can you imagine Zion as a Knick? The Knicks don't win the championship if Zion's a Knick. That's without a doubt. The Knicks don't break the 53-year drought if Zion's on that roster. But can you imagine the amount of trouble? We've seen the bad choices Zion has made with women. That would have been tenfold if he would have actually been a Knick. Putting Zion within striking distance of Washington Heights, putting Zion in striking distance of Dykeman, putting Zion, oh man, he would have been at all the parades. PR parade, DR parade, Pride parade. He would have been at all the parades. Zion would have just been, nah, it would have been bad. It would have been bad. It would have been bad for Zion. It is, sometimes you don't know that something that you want and you not getting it actually turns out to be a good thing. Even though Zion wanted to be a Knick, the Knicks surely wanted Zion to be a Knick. And I'm sure there were some in the league office that wanted Zion to be a Knick. It is great for all parties involved that Zion Williamson was never a Knick. If Brunson leads the Knicks to another conference finals, does he take the baton even though he's 29? No, I don't think there's a scenario in the world where Jalen Brunson could be the face of the league. I don't see a scenario where Jalen Brunson needs two. One, he's not good enough. Like, can we have a real conversation about Jalen Brunson? Can we have a real, I'm trying to not put on my chief Knick hater #1 glasses because the Knicks won their championship. We're trying to give them some grace. But can we have a real conversation about Jalen Brunson? Jalen Brunson is really good at what he does. He is a scoring guard. He is an undersized scoring guard. He's got a lot of IT3 in him. He's got a little bit of Iverson in him. He's of that mold, right? Your Rod Strickland. No, Rod Strickland was a real point guard. Your Tiny Archibald, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, formerly Chris Jackson. Like he's of that mold, right? That guy could never be the face. Like I said, Allen Iverson was only the face because he was so polarizing. The tattoos, the rap, like when Iverson dropped 40 Joules, his rap, what was that? Was that the name of the album or just the song? I think that was just the name of the song. When he dropped 40 Joules and was spitting hard, and had like murder, death, kill type bars, it fucked a lot of people's heads up. But he was also like on the path to being an MVP. He was also on the path of taking a mediocre roster, the middest of mids. People go crazy about the rosters that LeBron took to the NBA Finals when he was in Cleveland the first go around. Will you please go look at that Philadelphia 76er roster that Allen Iverson took to the finals and actually won a game against Kobe and Shaq at their peak? Like, LeBron gets credit for being swept by Tim Duncan when he had Zydrunas Ilgauskas. Allen Iverson had George Lynch, Eric Snow, Aaron McKee, and the late, great Dikembe Mutombo, and won a game against Kobe and Shaq. Do you know ball or nah? Are y'all with me or nah? But no, Jalen Brunson cannot be the face because Jalen Brunson is not polarizing enough. He is not engaging enough. Like the whole thing with him in the WWE, that's some fugazi bullshit. Like none of that is real. Like Jalen Brunson doesn't have the personality. You need that personality. Jalen Brunson does not have a personality. Like he is a nepo baby. He is he has no personality. No, he's not that. Kobe, even though Kobe was a nepo baby, his dad played in the league, but Kobe developed personality. Even though when he first came to the league, his personality was copy and paste MJ. Then as he got older, as he went through the shit in Colorado, he got to be more of who he was, more of who he actually was at his core, and that was the whole Mamba mentality thing, right? That was a personality. That was, if he would have came into league on some Black Mamba shit, that could have went completely different, for better or for worse. But that could have went completely different with Kobe if he would have came into the league on some Black Mamba shit and not some copy and paste, I want to be Michael Jordan shit. Steph in the chat, we have talked ad nauseum about how Mamba mentality has been watered down today. No one liked Mamba Kobe. He was an ass. Yeah, no, he was an ass. Like, yeah, like as much as Jason Tatum is cosplaying Kobe, like, and that's why the whole Celtics choosing Tatum over Brown thing, it's layered. It's layered. There's racial stuff there, but there's also personality stuff. Like, it's cool to want to be like Kobe. There was a point in time, like Steph just said in the chat, where it was not cool to want to be like Kobe because Kobe was an ass. And more specifically, he was an asshole. Like, there was a lot going on there. But because of the manner of which he died, the fact that he died young, the fact that he died with Gigi, all that stuff, there's been a lot of whitewashing and cleansing of Kobe's image. Dude, I remember. I was there. I was working in the industry. I remember. Yeah, Jalen Brunson can't be the face of the league. The Knicks would have to go on a run of multiple Larry OBs just for Jalen Brunson to be considered face of the league. He can't get that off of one chip. Nah, Curry came out of left field and jacked up the timeline for the league's plans. He's never been given the keys in that regard. Yeah, no, I agree. Wardell, he was a supernova. Wardell was a comet. He changed the game. He changed the way basketball is played. So I think he was the number one face, the number one baby face, but he was not over LeBron, I think, at any point. Also on the Zion thing, just from the on-court angle, he couldn't stay healthy long enough to push him as the face. Yeah, that matters too. The fact that he was always fat, the fact that the few times he was healthy, we saw his limitations. Like, he's Charles Barkley with hops. Even though at his peak, Charles Barkley had hops. But as he got older, he got slower. He didn't have the hops anymore. Zion's like the evolution of that. Zion's like 6'5". He's a 6'5" power forward. That's Charles Barkley. Like, there were people that had blue checks. There were people that were alleged ball knowers that were on platforms saying that Zion was going to be the evolution of Dominique Wilkins. I was like, how dare you insult Dominique Wilkins? How dare you? Like, stop watching YouTube highlights of Dominique Wilkins and go watch some games of Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins was so much better than what Zion could ever be. Like, he was supposed to be the evolution of Charles Barkley. That's why Charles Barkley loves to make fun of him on TNT, or now ESPN, but formerly TNT, because like he knows what that looks like. Oh yeah, undersized, big dude that got bunnies. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, he's me. He's the remix of me, no doubt. And then with the weight control, with the choices of women off the court, it's like, oh man, you're tricking it off, bro. You're tricking it off. Scrub Zero in the chat. Brunson is a plus player with top end intangibles, but he's never going to be that top player in the NBA. I'm good with that. I don't look to him for that anyway. Yeah, I mean, I think, again, if you're a Knicks fan, yeah, you don't care. I mean, as long as Jalen Brunson's the number one guy on your team, that's all that you should care about. Like, there's no requirement for the dude that won the NBA championship to then be the face of the league. Like, it's not a prerequisite that you have to, it's not a prerequisite to have to be the current NBA champion and the face of the league. Like, look at the NBA champions we have had. We've had 8 different champions over the last few years. Like, none of those guys outside of LeBron have been the face of the league. The Warriors, Wardell's never been the face of the league. The Celtics won. Tatum's never been the face of the league. He wants to be. He's another guy that wants to be, and despite him looking the part and acting like the part behind the scenes, if you know, you know, he's not the face of the league. He's not. OKC, SGA, he doesn't have the temperament. I'm not going to say he's boring. He's not boring. But from a talking perspective, he's boring. When you put a mic in front of him, he's boring. On IG, when he gets into his caption bag, he's lit. But when he's giving an interview, he's boring. When he's doing, the podium on post games, he's boring. Like that's not going to cut it. LeBron called the vast majority of NBA fans broke, and we applauded him for it. Do you understand what it is to be the face of the league? And this is while he was peak villain Bron, peak heel Bron, right? So Wardell was the face, Bron was the heel. And Bron called the casuals all broke. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and still be LeBron Ramon James. You're going to wake up and still be you. He called y'all broke. And he was still the face of the league. That's the type of shit I'm talking about. That's the type of shit I'm talking about. Zion would have never. Wardell would have never. Ja might have. But he couldn't handle losing a team game in his backyard. He couldn't stop going to strip clubs. He couldn't stop, bringing guns on IG Live. LeBron called everybody broke, and it has been canonized as one of the best moments of his career. It's up there. It's up there with what he did when he ran off 25 straight points against Detroit or whatever. It's up there. LeBron calling people broke, calling NBA fans, calling paying customers broke is up there with the chase down block on Eagle Dollar. Script-Zero, Allen Iverson winning one off that Lakers team is nothing short of special, and it doesn't get appreciated. He doesn't get appreciated for it. And that's my whole thing, yo. Like, that roster, Aaron McKee, George Lynch. Some of y'all might not even know these names. Aaron McKee, George Lynch, Matt Geiger. And he got a win against the Lakers. And it wasn't like one of those cheap wins where you're up 3-0 and then you lose one, but then you still win in 5. He won game 1 in LA. Isn't that the only game the Lakers lost that whole postseason run? The Lakers were sweeping everybody, I believe. Let's fact check that. I don't want to be out here doing fake news. Hang on. I think that was the only game they lost that whole playoff run. What was that, 2001? Oh, we got a lot of scrolling to do. Come on. Come on, Lakers. Let's go previous. All right, we're searching online. We're trying to pull it up. I want to break that down. Because if it wasn't that year, it was one of those three-peat years. The Lakers only lost once. Let's see, 2001. All right, NBA champions, playoffs. They need to make this easier. Yes, it was that year. Here we go. Hang on. Here's that year. Portland, they swept them 3-0. Best of 5. They swept the Kings 4-0. They swept the Spurs. They swept Tim Duncan at his peak. And then they lost one game to the Philadelphia 76ers. Do you understand how insane that is? The only team to beat Kobe and Shaq at their apex, at their peak, in one of the most dominant runs in NBA playoff history was a team with Allen Iverson, the late great Dikembe Mutombo, Eric Snow, Aaron McKean, Tyrone Hill. Tyrone Hill, who was more known for being bitch slapped by Charles Oakley than anything else in his life. He is more known for being pimp slapped by Charles Oakley. He was a starter on this team. Matt Geiger, Raja Bell, Todd McCullough, Jermaine Jones, not Jermaine Jones, Jermaine Jones, Kevin Ollie, yes, that Kevin Ollie, 14 minutes. George Lynch, Rodney Buford, this is who walked into Staples and got game 1. And Iverson still dropped 36 points a game in that series. 36 a game against Kobe and Shaq at their apex. Y'all don't hear me though. Dikembe Mutombo as your second leading scorer is atrocious. Atrocious. Look at the amount of minutes played. Iverson never came out the game. He damn near played every minute. 47.8 minutes played. There's only 48 minutes in a game. Look at the shot disparity. 162 shots in 5 games. Do you understand me? 162 shots in 5 games. We can do that math, right? I don't got to crunch the numbers for you, right? We can do that math. Mutombo was the second most with just 55. He took 2/3 of the shots. 2/3. And he still shot over 40% from the floor. You don't hear me though. But keep talking about LeBron getting swept by Tim Duncan when he had Zydrunas Ilgauskas. Go ahead. Keep talking to me about that. At least AI got a game and not a, gentleman's sweep game. He got game one on the road, no less. Come off the screen. Scrub Zero, I need more action between these players. I want competition, and we're starting to get back to that. No doubt. I think the fact that we've had so many different NBA champions is a good thing for the league, especially if you're going to not have a face of the league when LeBron leaves. If you're having this type of parity, I don't think that's really what parity is, but if you have a league where literally anyone can jump up and win, that keeps all fan bases engaged. That's good for business. If you're not going to have a dynasty, if you're not going to have a player that is so polarizing that everything revolves around him like a LeBron, then you better have a system set up where any team can win at any moment, to where even the Knicks can win. Steph in the chat, we're talking about faces of the NBA, but let's switch to NFL. Is this the year Caleb Williams becomes a top 5 QB and maybe a true MVP candidate? Okay, we want to go NFL? Let me do a quick check to make sure nobody else got laid off. Ooh, big name. Hang on. Big name. Big name. This is why we keep the timeline active. This is why we do this. Y'all ready? Oh, let me make sure I'm on the screen. Your man's Cam Newton has been laid off by ESPN. Cam Newton is no longer with the fourth of the network. So one former top 5 QB, one former NFL MVP has now been let go by the fourth of the network. Cam Newton laid off by ESPN. So this dude who we referenced earlier, who is part of the right-wing sports media entity known as Outkick, he apparently has a plug within ESPN because he is leaking a lot of the layoffs. So let's see. And there's his version of it. ESPN is laying off Cam Newton. Sources say he will not be on with Stephen A. this fall. So, and this to me is probably the more telling part, and this is why I was saying, if you're Stephen A., if you're Fraud A. Smith, and you have done all that you can for this company, you have done all the things, you have put your livelihood on the line for this company, you have exposed yourself, your family, your friends to this network to ingratiate yourself to the bosses, to the powers that be, and time after time after time, they're showing you that you matter, but only to a certain degree. Like they are planning for life post Fraud A. Smith. And it's smart. It's smart because you don't want to indenture yourself to one person, and they'll have to face that choice in a few years when it comes to being all in on Pat McAfee, right? Because the McAfee thing will then start to wane down, and then they'll have to figure out, well, who's next after him? If you're putting all, it's just like face of the league, right? Face of the league, face of a company. Stephen A. Smith has been the face of the company for a very long time. Now it is clear without a shadow of a doubt, the face of this company is now Pat McAfee. So if you were aligned with Stephen A. Smith, with Fraud A. Smith, now that Pat McAfee, who is allegedly on the verge of signing a deal that's going to pay him more than 60 M's a year, if your allegiance is more to Stephen A., you are expendable. And Cam Newton has learned that today. Being aligned with Stephen A. does not give you protection. Stephen A. is protected. They're not going to lay him off. But if you are on the peripheral, so now that's two people that were normal contributors to the Stephen A. Smith-led show at First Take that have been let go today. Ryan Clark Now we got Cam Newton. And yes, Michael Irvin was on there for a little bit and Shannon Sharp, but those were extenuating circumstances that got them up out the paint. This to me is more about we're all in on McAfee. So if you're riding with Stephen A., you are no longer needed. You are no longer necessary. You are no longer Teflon. So now what? Now what? Who the hell is Stephen A. going to do shows with? Jay Williams is watching a lot of football. Jay Williams is watching a lot of football. I see you, Jay Will. I see you, Jay Will. He might have known this was coming. So let me start to jump out there and have some football takes. And okay, I see you, Jay Will. All right. Steph wants to talk NFL. Let's see if we can do that. Also, real quick, we did that. Real quick, though, now that they're getting another former athlete about the paint. So there was one former athlete in Ryan Clark. Now we have another. And we have some older media members being part of this layoff as well. It got to me to want to show you guys this. Awful Announcing, which is a sports media company that kind of follows and traffics in sports media news and stuff like that, put together a list of who they feel are rising stars, right? So let's get into who you see here. This is a lot of diversity going on here, right? It's a lot of diversity, but let's talk about, or let's just take a look at what you don't see on this list. Gilbert Arenas, former athlete, right? Cool. Checks a box. Kenny Beecham, SiriusXM. Shout out to Kenny. Worked with him when I was at Bleacher Report. He's come a long way. The brand was always strong. I'm glad he's finally getting recognized for the brand, right? But don't get it twisted. Even though this is in alphabetical order, there's a reason why you have two black guys at the top, because you're not going to see another black face for the rest of this list. But Madeline Burke, Kevin Clark. Again, just notice what you see, or more importantly, what you don't see. Allie Clifton, Shay Cornett, a dude from Barstool, dude on Amazon. I guess another former athlete, I guess. Renee Montgomery, former player, so she doesn't count. Black and a former player, you normally don't count when I'm doing this type of stuff, but we'll let it rock. She's also a triple minority, if you know, you know, but Alexa, again, what do you notice? Jackie, again, what do you notice? Ashley, again, what do you notice? Monte Te'o. They're going to keep him. If you're going to let people go from NFL Network, you're going to keep Manti Te'o? Ryan Clark got to go, but Manti Te'o stays? Something about that just doesn't seem right to me. John Wall, former athlete, doesn't count. Charlotte Wilder, Madeline Hill, again, what do you notice? So I say all that to say is that out of the black faces on this list, only one is a non-athlete, whereas damn near every other non-black face on this list is a non-athlete. Do you see what I'm cooking or not? But this is the media thing in a nutshell, where if you're black and a former athlete, you might have an opportunity. But if you're black and a non-athlete, there's only room for one. And right now that one is Kenny Beecham. And at least Kenny Beecham is really good at what he does, so it's okay. But the fact that there's only one, when I could scroll down this list and find white non-athletes being put in prominent media positions up and down, their analysis is okay. But when the Ryan Clarks of the world call out the fact that these are non-athletes, he has to run to the Elon app to apologize. Do you see the game? Do you see the rigging of the game? All right. We can talk some football if you want. Now we're about to see nothing but Chris Canty. Oof, which is not good. Which is not good. I'm okay if we get more Booger McFarland. I'm okay if we get more Marcus Spears. I'm okay there. But if we get more Chris Canty, that's rough. That's rough. That's rough. He had to run the radio for a reason, like, because the TV thing was not. But now, to your point, he might be forced to be on there. All this Wonder White bread out here. I mean, that's the game. That's the quiet part. When you're looking at who's being given opportunities, it's not people like Scrub Zero who do content. It's not people like me and even Steph who do content. It's not us. It's not people who look like us. But so they get to be on and not be athletes and have their opinion be okay and be given platforms to. But when a former athlete calls out their opinions and say, like, that, as a former player, that opinion was bullshit, that former player then has to run and go apologize. Interesting times we're in. But yeah, let's get into some NFL. Let's see if we can do that. The NFL 100 came out, and Lamar Jackson was very low on that list. And I find that to be hilarious. Let's see. All right, let me size this up for y'all. So, the NFL Top 100 is a list that the players get together and, basically rank themselves. But yeah, Lamar Jackson falls 67 spots on NFL Top 100. He was just number 2 the year before. So he goes from number 2 to number 69. So Steph wants to know, is this the year Caleb Williams becomes a top 5 QB? So if we're doing that, let me come off here so I can look this up. If we're doing that, that means we need to find out who the consensus top 5 quarterbacks are. And all these lists are always subjective, right? All these lists are subjective. But let's just take a list from NFL.com. They are ranking all 63 starting quarterbacks. Let me come off. All 63 starting quarterbacks from the 2025 NFL season. Okay, so Matthew Stafford is tier 1. Josh Allen is number 2. Dak Prescott's number 3. Drake May's number 4. Justin Herbert is number 5, right? Again, do I agree with this list? No. I don't agree with a lot of these lists to the point that last year I did a mini doc mocking the NFL Top 100 and did my own top 10, and Stefan, who's in the chat, was a part of that. Trying to figure out a way to do that again this year. If you think we should run that back, let me know in the chat, let me know in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed so you can know when that drops if we do one. But yeah, so now we have Justin Herbert, Drake May, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, and Matthew Stafford as a top 5. So do I think Caleb Williams can go into this top 5 next year? Sure. I think there's a scenario where he can be better than Justin Herbert and be better than Drake May next year and be in that top 5. But if we're talking about a more legitimate top 5, let's see. If we're doing, let AI do it, right? AI is saying based off QBR. The top 5 quarterbacks are Drake May, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Matthew Stafford, and Dak Prescott. Again, that's another variable, right? If you want to go through passer rating, the top 5 are Drake May, Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. So let's go off that list. Again, I think Caleb Williams could be better than Drake May this year. I think Caleb Williams could be better than Jared Goff this year. So yes, there's a scenario where Caleb Williams could be a top 5 QB, but that's based off what metrics? If you're now telling me Lamar, Josh, Burrow, if we start to throw some more names in there instead of just going off stats and raw data like AI is doing here, if we're going off of players that we just feel are good, that are top tier, Joe Burrow hasn't been mentioned in any of these lists because it's off data and he was hurt, right? So, but we all think Joe Burrow's a top 5 QB. So if we're going to take, and Mahomes ain't on any of these lists, right? We haven't seen Mahomes yet. So if we do Mahomes and Burrow, and then we do Lamar, and then we do Josh Allen, that only leaves one spot. Are we definitively saying that Caleb Williams could be that 5th spot over the likes of Matthew Stafford, over the likes of Jordan Love, depending on what he does this year, over the likes of, you know, if you're into Jared Goff, or if you're into Drake May, if you're believing in what Drake May is going to do with now A.J. Brown, all that, and then we still got your Jalen Hurts of the worlds. Like, there's a lot of QBs out there, and that's why the list thing, even though I did one, right? I did one because I wanted to do it because I wanted to show that anyone, even someone like me who is not working for NFL or NFL Films or NFL Network, could do a mini doc about the NFL. Anyone's list is going to be subjective. Anyone's list, like, trust me, in the process of doing the top 5, I heard some names that I was stunned. Trevor Lawrence's name was put out there in the top 5. Someone was 10 toes down. Now, the person was also a Jaguars fan, so a little skewed, a little biased, but Trevor Lawrence's name was put in the conversation. We don't even have Jaden Daniels on here. Jaden Daniels has not been mentioned in it. So again, if we're talking about can Caleb Williams break the top 5, if your top 5 has a Drake May in it, sure. If your top 5 has a Jared Goff in it, sure. But if your top 5 has a Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, if we have those names that we know that are actually the top 5, that's difficult. That is difficult. Heading into what, year 3? That's difficult to just vault him in the top 5. Because to be quite honest, I don't know if that receiver room is as good as everyone thinks it's going to be. We know he's got the play caller. That's confirmed. We know he's got a tight end. That's confirmed. We know he's got the moxie that he showed in college. He's got it. But now with no DJ Moore, we're putting a lot of stock into Luther Burden and Rome Odunze. And while I think Luther Burden is one of those, I'm still not sold on Rome Odunze. So if we're saying Rome can step in and be the number 2, even though he probably thinks he should be the number 1, I don't know if I'm putting Caleb Williams in the top 5. I don't know if I'm putting him in the same conversation as Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. I don't know if he just automatically gets that 5th spot. Scrub Zero. Oh yeah, Caleb should have a better year in the 3rd season. Not sure about MVP candidate. That would be a monster jump, but I'm interested to see what he can show. Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that, look, he showed me last year. You know, I'm still not a Chicago Bears fan. I will never go back to being a fan of any team. The Chicago Bears could go out here and be the next dynasty, and I still will not go back to being a Chicago Bears fan. It has nothing to do with Caleb Williams, nothing to do with Ben Johnson. It's just, I don't believe in fandom. I believe fandom is a mental illness. But I still pay attention because I know ball, right? So I'm still watching all the games. And Caleb Williams showed me a lot. He showed me a lot. And he showed me that, yeah, he's got it. He's not a fluke. He's not any of that stuff. He's one of those. But being top 5, along with Mahomes, along with Burrow, along with Lamar, along with Josh Allen, that's a really high ceiling. But if we're just doing off of data, yeah, he could break into this top 5. He could have a better year than Jordan Love. He could have a better year than Brock Purdy. Sure, he could have a better year than Drake May. He could have a better year than all these guys and break into that, sure. If you're going by QBR, yes, he could do that. If you're going by passer rating, yes, he could do that. If we're just going by consensus ball knower, the ball knower top 5, I don't know. That's a different conversation. I'm a believer in Ben Johnson. Yeah, you should be. You should be. No doubt. No doubt. Ben Johnson, now he's got some stuff to figure out. I think there's some, and I talked about this throughout the season, like he gave the keys to Caleb too soon. And then he had to take them back. And then he started running the fuck out of the ball. And then the Bears actually got good. Then when the Bears actually got good, it allowed Caleb to slow down, have the game slow down for him. And then when he unleashed Caleb later in the year, as the year went along, then we got to see the Caleb. Because the Bears off rip in the season, at the beginning of the season, it was not good. Now, there might be some revisionist history that, oh, yeah, year 1 was great. Slow down. I watched the games. It was not good. It took about week 4, week 5, when he started running the ball and stopping Caleb Williams from having 30, 40 dropbacks and dial that back a little bit. Then the offense kind of got their legs underneath them and understanding this new offense and this new scheme and philosophy. Then things started to progress. Then Caleb had to have the time to make the reads. Then the play action started to work. All that stuff was predicated off of the success of the run game. Now if Ben Johnson can unleash it all with the passing game and all that stuff, then this year will tell me more about the Ben Johnson-Caleb Williams relationship more than last year. Last year was the filling out process, right? This is, no, now we cooking. Now we should be unleashing everything. But now no DJ Moore. And, you might not know how I feel about DJ Moore. I wasn't the biggest DJ Moore guy. He was certainly a number 1 on this team, but only because there was nobody else that was actually number 1 worthy. Now you're assuming either Rome Odunze or Luther Burden's going to take that spot. The jury's out. Steph, run the doc back. I want to. I definitely want to, and I think we will. I just have to figure out the logistics. We may do it, and I mentioned this to Steph off air. We may just do it here on this stream. Have the people who want to pull up and do their top 10s, pull up, have your top 10s ready, turn your cameras on. I got the equipment that I can have your camera on the screen as the stream is going on, and we can just do the top 10s that way. We need to have a serious convo about Joe Burrow. Let's have it. Let's have it. Are we shading Joe Burrow? Is this the year? He has had Jamar Chase his whole career. Are we going to start the narratives? Let me know. I'm here. I'm here for it. So said Lawrence and Justin Sherbert got some good PR. I hope to have one day. I mean, they got that Peter Schrager protection. They got that Peter Schrager protection for sure. Joe Burrow, I got something to say. He played GM and messed his team up, and he's missed the playoffs a few times now. That's real. Hey, look, if we're going to have the open season on Joe Burrow, I'm here for it. Scrub Zero, I think Burden's finna be like that, but to expect Caleb to be top 5 is asking a lot. It may be unfair to him, but let's see if he can make the grade or not. Yeah, I think Luther Burden looks the part. He's got the shiftiness. He's got the hands. He's got the after-catch skills where he can get away. He's got some shiftiness to him. He looks the part. It's just putting it all together, Other teams know how nice he is. What happens when they key on him? What happens when they shade coverage to his side? What happens? Like, is this, and that's where the Ben Johnson system cooks up. That's why having Loveland, having Kmet, still having Swift, like all that stuff matters. Like in terms of cooking up, the team might still prosper even if there's no true number one on this roster. Bengals still haven't fixed that O-line. Burrow finna be running for his life again. And that's part of the conversation. You know, they went out there and got Orlando Brown all them years ago, and that just, not that it hasn't been Orlando Brown's fault, but they just haven't done enough to fortify the rest of the line. Like having a good left tackle is one thing, but that doesn't mean ignore the other 4 spots on the line. Script Zero, the biggest question I have for the Bears, can they play more than one complete game this upcoming season? The Black Friday game versus the Eagles was the only one I saw. That's fair. That's fair. I think that's more on the defense, and they've made some strides defensively. If you believe on paper, I don't know in actuality how that works. I'm more of I'll believe it when I see it when it comes to the defense. And I think and they've had some losses in free agency on that defense as well. Edwards is no longer there, I believe. They've had some losses. There's some people that believe that they did well in the draft on defense. Again, I don't put a lot of stock into that stuff. But yes, the defense is certainly the weak spot for a franchise that is known for defense, that has their calling card being defense. It's a lot. It's a lot there. The offense might have to carry this team, which puts even more pressure on Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, and all of that. Joe making it to the Super Bowl should not excuse the criticism he deserves. Yes, he's accurate, poised under pressure, and can read a defense, but he can't stay on the field, holds the ball too long. And he's got more here. His regular season play doesn't match his playoff production. So are we putting him on that Joe Flacco wave? Because Flacco was really good from the perspective of, Joe Flacco was really good from the perspective of he's good in the big moments, the big games and all that stuff. But regular season, he's kind of not mid, but he's regular, right? Like, is that what we're looking at when it comes to Joe Burrow? Is he only a playoff performer? That's a comment. Look, next week's stream, because it's likely, unless LeBron finally decides where he's going to go, let's all be ready to air out Joe Burrow. Let's decide that. Next week, we're going to air out Joe Burrow. I think the conversation has to, I'm going to, you know me, I like to do my research, get my stats, and break it down. Let's have that conversation. I love that we've stumbled onto it, so I'm here for it. But let's tap in. Let's spin the block on this next week. I want to see if anyone else has been let go, because I feel like more people are being let go. Cam Newton being let go is a big one, though. Okay, we have an update. Now, again, this is from the dude that is from the right-wing sports media group Outkick, so take that with a grain of salt. So there's going to be some shade mixed in here. ESPN has paid people between $2 and $6 million a year to be Stephen A's main debate partner on Mondays during the football season since Max Kellerman left. ESPN has now fired them all: Michael Irvin, Shannon Sharp, and Cam Newton. I'm told Smith was intrigued by Jameis Winston, but he is likely to play in the NFL this year. So, Friday Smith, and that's legitimate, because that is the formula. Mondays during football season is a big day because we're recapping all the Sunday games, so Stephen A has to have an NFL guy there to go back and forth with. So since Stephen A is a non-athlete, it would be better to have a former athlete to pair next to him to give that athlete perspective. So yes, we've had the likes of Michael Irvin, Shannon Sharp, and now Cam Newton. All three are gone. Jameis Winston certainly has the personality. I don't know how that would look in a debate format. Jameis versus Fraud A. I don't know if that's must-see TV. I don't know but yeah, it's likely Jameis is going to play anyway. But like, even if he wasn't, I don't know how good that would have been anyway. But unlikely to happen. But that's where we're at with that. Where is Andrew Marchand? Where is his page? Let's refresh. This is news. WFAN and Top Odyssey sports stations are headed to SiriusXM. Okay, I did a video on TikTok where I said sports radio is dead. The concept of sports radio, terrestrial radio, is dead. I had a thing on TikTok about that. This is confirming it. WFAN, which is the top sports talk radio station in the tri-state area. That is the tri-state area, which is New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Also, full transparency, I got my career started working at WFAN. I was one of the few black people that they hired. But that sports station, which is a terrestrial radio station, are now heading to SiriusXM, which means they're now going to be a satellite radio station. So a brand such as WFAN is no longer viable as an entity on terrestrial radio. They're now moving to satellite. I'm sure they'll still exist on radio, but I think what they're going to do is simulcast and have it also be available on satellite radio. Because satellite radio, it's infinite. There's infinite channels you can have on satellite radio. Full disclosure, I used to also work at SiriusXM. Your boy has all these companies that we've talked about. I've been in those buildings, so that's the insight I try to give to y'all here. And that's why if you like that type of shit, you should subscribe, because I'm giving you the tea because I've been in these buildings. But anyway, has anyone else been laid off? Bart Scott is out. Bart Scott is out at the foot of the network. I'm not mad at that. I never was a big fan of Bart Scott. I think he turned that one quotable "can't wait" into a sports media career, and that sports media career has done nothing. All right, anybody else? There was something I saw. I'm not going to say it yet until I see it. Okay. Because someone was, again, and this is that part of the internet, right? Where we have someone, again, this person is a right-wing conservative who is part of a sports media company that leans to the right. So he has a fan base and a follower base that is aligned with his thoughts. And this person wants Mina Kimes to be next. And again, if you know ball, you would never say such a thing, right? But this guy, who apparently has the list, he apparently has the list of the people that are going to be laid off. So again, someone within the company, someone within the fold of the network is leaking information. Why would someone within the company leak information to a right-wing conservative sports media entity, which they should view as a competitor? But he's saying Mina Kimes is safe. Newton was the last big name on the layoff list. There will be a few more that come out this afternoon, but no one big. So that means behind the scenes people. And I still got people up there. I hope the ones that I fuck with are safe. But yeah, more names are going to be released. All right, let's see what we got here. About to wrap this up. I got some appointments I need to make, and it is thundering and lightning here in Connecticut, so might have to make a move sooner than later. Let's see where we at. Jalen Hurts faces way more scrutiny than Joe Burrow, and Jalen is a winner. Yes, Let's keep this energy for the next week's stream. We're going to have that discussion. We're going to air all that out. Scrub Zero, I'll get the grill ready. Yeah, it's time. It's time we get at Joe Burrow. It's time. It's time for the conversation. It's time. Joe B and Justin Herbert. Oh, we on that Herbert pack too. We're gonna smoke on that Herbert pack. Okay. All right. If we're gonna smoke on that Burrow pack and that Herbert pack, I'm here for it. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. If you have not liked the stream already, I would like you to like the stream. That does YouTube algorithm things to let people know that you enjoy the stream. If you have not subscribed to this channel, I think you should do so. I'm biased. I think you should do so. I think if you've enjoyed this content, if you've enjoyed any part of the stream and you've not subscribed, I think you should do so. Be a part of the conversation. Join in with the people that have been here. If on the way out, I'm going to do a scroll of the people that were able to tap in on the chat, just like a little thank you to being able to pull up and enjoy and interact with me on the stream. So on the way out, as I put up the little countdown thing, you'll also see a little rundown of all the people that have contributed to the chat today. So salute to y'all. Thank you for y'all. Y'all help keep this stream going. Because if it was just me dolo, I probably got a good hour to just go and just talk and just talk. But y'all bringing up different things, bringing up different points of views, allow the streams to go over, 2 hours? To go over 2 hours. So salute to y'all. Thank y'all to y'all. I go by the name of The Sam D. This has been the The Sam D YouTube channel. This is a live stream of the Sam D podcast. Podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms. I will see y'all again next week. All right?